An official good morning to everyone who would have joined us today. Welcome to our webinar on how to deal with the fear of failure. We all have some fear, whether it is being in the dark, whether it is roaches, centipedes, or even the fear of balloons. But how do we handle this fear? How do we step away from being afraid and stepping outside of our comfort zone to don't let fear hinder us, but use it to be a stepping stone for further success? These are some things we're going to sit down and we're going to think about and discuss today. Thank you for everyone joining, and feel free to share and interact because we're going to get to the heart of fear. Nelson Mandela once said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light that hinders and scares us more than our darkness." So step out of the darkness into the light to become a better version of yourselves. Today, we are here with Dr. Chelston Brathwaite, who will enlighten us on fear. But before we start, I wanted to share with you a quick video on your fear.
We've all been there. We are having a lovely time watching the clouds go by, making shapes out of them. Look, that one looks like Pikachu. When yes, all of a sudden, a freaky nun demon jumps out at you. Sorry if that scared you. We all get afraid and feel fear. Maybe not like that example, but at different times. Seeing a spider, a loud noise, or a creak at night can strike fear suddenly right through our bodies. But what is this feeling of fear? Where does it come from? And why do we even have it? Make sure you hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified about future videos. The feeling of fear can make your heart race, breath quicken, scream, sweat, pupils dilate, freeze you in place, and can even cause involuntary urination. These are all stress reactions caused by our limbic system, a chain reaction in areas of the brain that work together to control our built-in fight or flight response. We have this built into us to help us react to and survive threats. Imagine prehistoric primitive you being confronted by a predator, say the extinct flesh-eating giant Piccolosaurus. You would see this and your brain would say, "Look, that wants to eat you. Get away from it now to survive." Without feeling fear, you might say, "Hey Piccolosaurus, what's for lunch?" And it would reply, "You," and gobble you up. If not for fear, we would most likely not have survived as a species. Let's have a look how the brain has compartments that communicate to react to a threat. There are two simultaneous processes going on which decide how we react. The low road is instinctual and impulsive. React now, ask questions later. When a perceived threat happens, whether it's an unexpected sound, motion, or any other sense, the brain says danger, engage fight or flight response now. The sensory stimulus is sent into the thalamus, the area of the brain in charge of receiving initial sensory signals and relaying them to the next destination. As the thalamus does not know whether this is real danger, but there is a possibility, it shoots the signal straight to the amygdala, which is the brain's alarm system. The amygdala sends a danger signal to the hypothalamus, also referred to as the lizard brain, which is responsible for synthesizing and secreting hormones. It reacts and sends out neurochemicals and hormones including adrenaline into the body, increasing things like breathing and heart rate, dilating pupils to maximize further visual information input, and pumping more blood into our muscles so we are primed to run or fight. The high road takes a slightly longer route, considering the scenario before deciding what action to take. The original stimuli is again sent to the thalamus, but instead of escalating this to the amygdala, it is sent through to the sensory cortex, which processes and determines meaning from the stimuli. What exactly did you see, hear, taste, smell, or feel? It sends the gathered information onto the hippocampus, which stores memory for more context and asks whether it has experienced this before. What did it mean that time, and what was the outcome? It also considers other factors that might help give it context. Is that noise my cat in the other room? Did I leave the TV on? Etc. The hippocampus takes a measured approach and tells the fired-up amygdala whether to shut down and stop sending signals to the hypothalamus or to continue with the fight-or-flight reaction engaged by the low road. This is why we feel a momentary rush of terror before calming down in a situation we evaluate to not be dangerous after all. Lots of people actually seek out fear, enjoying being and feeling scared, watching horror films, playing scary games, or even going on a roller coaster. When our fight or flight response is triggered, we release chemicals which are similar to that of when we are excited or happy. When we trigger this in what we perceive as a safe environment, it is thought that we can then enjoy being scared, and the chemicals running around our body that are akin to high arousal states. What was the last thing that made you scared or jump? And do you like being scared, or do you hate it? Let us know below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon.
Yes, our fears. We all have that moment where something scares us, but how do we know that we're actually experiencing fear? Some people, they bite their nails. Some people scream. Some people have anxiety where their heart races too fast. We have to first know ourselves. Know you. Know how you react to the different stimulus around you. And this is something only you can do for yourself. I want to take this time to let's have a discussion. Tell me, how do you know you're experiencing fear? What do you do? For me, sometimes I bite my nails. What do you do? Anyone?
I scream and run.
Yeah, running is a definite thing, especially when you see a roach. Yes. So Dr. Brathwaite, I'm going to turn over to you now to share with us some tips on how we can get over with fear. We have comments saying that some people get stomach upset where your stomach does black flips, and others, they scream or their heart start to race.
Good morning to all. Hello.
We're hearing you.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good morning to all, and let me begin by welcoming you to another of our Saturday morning chats. I am pleased to be here with you today. Last time we spoke about self-esteem and the importance of self-esteem for success, the important role that it can play in your work, in your school, in your business, and in your life choices. Today, we wish to touch on another topic that is very important to everyone: the fear of failure. All of us are afraid of something. There's some people who are afraid of the dark without even seeing anything that scares them, but just being afraid of the dark. There are people who are afraid of shadows. There are people who are afraid of going out at night. There are others who have a morbid fear of insects, like centipedes and that kind of vermin. And so we all have fears. The challenge with fear is, how do you manage it? How do you overcome fear? How do you treat with fear? How do you ensure that fear does not overwhelm you? And how can you, in your daily lives, in your business, in your school, in your work environment, treat with fear in such a way that you are successful? There are many situations where people will tell you, for example, in business, someone wants to start a business and they say, well, I don't think people will like this product that I want to sell, or I don't think that this is a product that will do well in the marketplace, or I don't think the banks will give me money to support this venture, or I don't believe that this is something that will be successful going forward. And when you dig a little deeper and really ask the fundamental question, you discover that really it is the fear of failure that is dominating the mind of that person. A fear that says, I think I may fail at this, and I don't want to fail, because if I fail, people, colleagues, friends will look down on me as a failure. And I don't want to be considered a failure in life. But you will always be a failure until you try. If you have not tried, then you do not know whether or not you will fail. And if you try, at least you have the experience of having tried, and that experience can help you to succeed the next time. So a fundamental principle in overcoming fear is to try. Let me go to my text and tell you a few things which I've discovered. The first one is that fear is the greatest obstacle to the achievement of success. The fear of failure is the greatest obstacle to the achievement of success. You know how many people could be successful in various fields and in various endeavors, but they have a fear of failure. And that fear of failure is the greatest obstacle to the achievement of success. So in order to be successful, you have to overcome the fear of failure. Let us look at some examples. Christine mentioned Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela also said, and I quote, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over fear. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers his fear. In other words, fear is always there. It is always part of the landscape. It's always part of our environment. But conquering that fear, overcoming that fear is the key to success. As you know, Nelson Mandela became president of his country, South Africa, after spending 27 years in jail, and ushered in a life of dignity and progress for millions of people, and became an icon and an inspiration around the world. So let us deal with the first principle. To be successful, you must cure yourself of the fear of failure. When you try, even if you're unsuccessful, you are a winner because you have conquered the fear of trying. The next time, you start at a higher level. There's a gentleman called Robert Schuller who wrote a book called Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And he states, failure does not mean that you're a failure. It does mean that you have not succeeded yet. Failure doesn't mean that you have not accomplished anything. It does mean you have learned something. Failure doesn't mean that you're a fool. It does mean that you had a lot of faith. Failure doesn't mean that you have been disgraced. It does mean that you were willing to try. Failure doesn't mean that you have or don't have it. It does mean that you may have to do things differently. Failure doesn't mean that you are inferior. It does mean that you're not perfect. Failure doesn't mean that you've wasted your life. It does mean you have a reason to start afresh. Failure doesn't mean you should give up. It does mean that you must try harder. Failure doesn't mean that you'll never make it. It does mean it will take a little longer. It doesn't mean that God has abandoned you. It does mean that God has a better idea. What about your future success? According to some believe that their future success depends on their failures of the past. They say they're afraid they won't be successful because they have failed financially in the past, because they grew up in a troubled home, or because they always had bad luck, or because they didn't get a good education, or because their parents mistreated them, or because they have been surrounded by negative people, and so on and so on and so on. Those who have spent years studying the differences between successful people and people who fail are convinced that your success is not based on how many times you have failed in the past. Your success has nothing to do with how much education you have or do not have. Your success has little to do with the family in which you were raised. It has little to do with whether you were born in wealth or in poverty. Your success has little to do with how much money you have now or do not have. Your success has nothing to do with what you thought about your past. Your success has everything to do with what you do beginning today. If you decide to go for it, believe in yourself, and make your life work for you, it will not be your past that counts so much. It will be what you do in the future. Some of the most successful people in the world had no education. Some were born in an unsuccessful family. Some came out of a failed marriage. Some went broke. They believed they were destined to live a life of poverty. They had been taught to think that they can't make it. And they were surrounded by negative people or had low self-esteem, as we discussed the last time. On every list of the most successful people who ever lived in the world, you'll find that at least half of them were born or lived in the worst of times. I'd like to repeat that. On the list of the most successful people who have ever lived, you will find that half of them were born or lived in the worst of times. And yet, their successes are among the greatest success stories of all. Success is not a straight line. In the process of being successful, there are normally failures. But these failures are the stepping stones to success. They provide opportunities for reflection, for analysis, and for discovery of your talents. It allows you to become more confident about the future on the basis of the steps that you've taken in the past. And so, the day that you decide to think about your future is the day that you change the rest of your life. One of life's greatest rewards is overcoming hardships to accomplish something that most people thought was impossible. I shut the door, a famous poem said, I shut the door on yesterday and throw away the key. Tomorrow has no fears for me since I have found today. And then you have that famous prayer by Ringo Niebuhr. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage and wisdom to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. I wish to tell you about two examples of people who have been capable of overcoming fear. This gentleman, at 9 years old, he lost his mother. At 23-year-old, he lost his job. He was defeated in an election in his country. At 24, he failed in business and went into debt. At 25, he was elected to the parliament. At 26, he lost the lady that he loved. At 27, he had a nervous breakdown. And at 29, he was defeated as the Speaker of the Parliament in his country. At 34, he was defeated for a nomination in the Congress of his country. And at 39, he lost the nomination as a land officer. At 47, he was defeated in his quest to be vice president of his country. At 49, he was defeated in the Senate. But at 51, he was elected president of the United States. Who was this man? A man called Abraham Lincoln, one of America's greatest presidents, the president who oversaw the Civil War and brought his country together in peace to overcome the challenges that they face. Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents of the United States, in a substantial part of his life, was a failure. Let me speak a little bit about another person. She was born in poverty. Her parents divorced when she was 14 years old. She witnessed her mother being physically and mentally abused. Her father had a drug addiction, was an alcoholic, and was financially unstable. She was bullied and mocked at school. She experienced violence and abuse in her own relationships. She faced world criticism when she made up with one of her abusers. Today, she is a music icon, a businesswoman, one of the few women on the Forbes list of the rich and famous, and one of the most successful women in the world. What's her name? Rihanna. Don't let the failures defeat you. Keep on trying. And as Churchill said, never, never, never give up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brathwaite. The other thing is, yes, we understand fear for our own individual selves, but let's look at fear in the eyes of a child. We have children in school, or you might have a child at home and you tell them to do something and you think it's simple and the child isn't doing it. We think, oh, the child is stubborn, or the child doesn't want to listen, or they want their own way. But sometimes it's fear. When you have a child and they're learning to walk and you encourage them, yes, come to mommy, come to daddy. The child is so excited, they don't study falling until they have that first fall and they experience what is pain. A child will be on the floor playing, see a lizard pass by, and the child will actually reach out and touch it until they see the parents going, oh my gosh, no. Then the child will then learn, okay, this is fear. And then the child will pick up on this. So sometimes we have to support children in the same way. One, support them and encourage them so that even if they don't get something done, understand that doesn't mean that mommy or daddy hates you or we're upset with you, but we understand, we can try harder, you can do it again. Or you also try now as a parent to put your fears onto these children, because children only learn these things when they see you react. Or so you might see a child fall and then they look around to see if you're looking, and when they see you looking, they start to do, oh, and they want to cry, because they're looking for you to see what is the appropriate way to react. That's another form of failure, a way that we instill failure or fear of failure into our children. Anyone have any questions?
Since there are no questions, maybe I should intervene here and to say that in a real sense, fear is an element that exists in our environment all the time. But overcoming the fear of failure means stepping out boldly with confidence and challenging your own thoughts, because your own thoughts may be derived from negative vibrations that you got from your environment, from parents, from colleagues, etc. But overcoming fear requires courage. You have to be brave. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have self-confidence. You have to have self-esteem. And therefore, you have to decide, I am going to try. Yes, I can. And once you decide to give it a try and to say, yes, I can, you are beginning to overcome the fear that exists in your environment.
Yes. A question was asked, what are some of the signs that a child might experience fear? Just a point of note that fear, there's no specific way a person may handle fear because it is all individualistic. I might experience fear one way that might be different to how Chelston may do it or how Janisa might do it. So you still have to figure out for that child what is their way of showing that they're afraid. Some people bite their nails. Some people start to get shortness of breath and what we call panic attacks and heavy breathing. Then some people might actually lash out. So in a classroom setting, you might have a child, you ask the child to read. That child may not be able to read, or the child has difficulty reading some of the words, but instead of coming out and say that, because we don't like people to know that we have something is wrong with us or so then the person might come and I ain't reading nothing, or they might start to give trouble just so that they get out of doing it. So that's a sign that we could be aware of in terms of being afraid. So remember, you have to look and gauge based on what the child is or isn't doing. Some people know they're afraid, so they can talk about everything other than the question asked. That's another way that they will showcase their fear. The question was, how do you help a child become more confident? I would say having a very strong support system. I might not be good at something, but if I know that I have people there to back me and support me, then I might be a little bit more willing to take part in it. I remember when I was a child, I wanted to make breakfast for mommy and the toast burned and my mom would scrape off the burn parts and she would like, good try, but next time when it start to get, and then she tried to help you by giving you more information that you can work with. So rather than say, oh my gosh, you bring this burn up toast for me to eat and making the child feel like I did this for nothing, is how you go about it. Encourage the child and say, okay, good attempt, but next time we're gonna make sure the chicken is cooked right through, or next time, or I can help you and let me show you how another way to do it. So it's encouraging words that will make or break a child and help them to be, whether they're gonna try again or whether they're not going to do this ever again. So it's how you react to the situation or the outcome. You're welcome. Any other questions or input?
I think, Christine, the idea of encouraging words should be one that is imprinted on the minds of all who attend and leave this webinar, because encouraging words are the key to promoting self-confidence in children. Not putting them down, but encouraging them to do better. Just giving them a positive feedback on what they have achieved. I remember a case of a famous writer who was asked, what is the key to his success? And he said one of the keys to his success was encouraging words to those who supported him. He got support by encouraging people to do better. In other words, positive feedback, positive vibrations is part of what is necessary to help children overcome fear. You have to treat your children as if they are a prize to you that you must take care of, and you must, at each stage of the game, encourage them to do better. Let them know that they are special. Let them know that they are a creation of the Most High with special talents to do special things. And every time they do something special, or you want them to do something special, help them with encouraging words.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here a minute as well. We might be afraid to do something, but sometimes you have to push yourself beyond that fear. You might have these things conjure up in your head. Oh, I'm afraid, or I don't want to do this for whatever reason. And then you realize that after you actually do it, you realize it's not as bad as I thought. So sometimes we have to do that. But where it comes with children is you have to proceed with a little bit more caution, because you want to give them the push, but you can't push them too far. So when you're pushing them, don't push them and send them out to the wolves. You push them, but let them know that you are dear despite the outcome or what may happen. You have a raised hand. You can ask a question.
Good morning to all. Is fear always a bad thing? Because here we are perceiving it as a stumbling block or a hurdle to get to the next level. But is there a case where it's actually a protective mechanism?
I would say yes, for sure. That is also your body's way to protect you from danger. You might see something in terms of a child knows that the flame is hot, or there's fire, and it should say hot, hot. But not having fear, the child might still stick their hand in the fire and realize they get burned. So sometimes the fear is good to protect you from danger, and is the body's mechanism to prevent such things.
Okay.
Yes, it is that mechanism that helps you avoid danger. And in fact, it is the body's response that allows you to remove yourself from the impact of the danger that is in front of you. The body reacts, as we saw in the video that came up earlier, generating in the body that adrenaline, that energy that allows you to escape danger is part of the body's response to fear. So fear is not always a bad thing. Fear, in fact, prepares you for flight in a dangerous situation. But at the same time, fear is also part of the experiences that we go through, because if there is no fear, then you do not have the experience, because you never venture out. There are people who remain protected or in a protective environment all their lives because they're afraid of venturing forth, and consequently, many of them are unsuccessful because they don't have the power, the incentive, the drive to get up and do something that in fact could benefit them in the short and medium term.
Yeah, but I just want to bring us back to the point in terms of the webinar today is how to deal with the fear of failure. So it's not just fear in general. So fear in general, yes, it has its good and its bad components, but we're looking at the fear of failure. Sometimes that is more looking in terms of doing something, starting a business. People want to start a business, but oh, my business might fail, or I might invest this money and it doesn't work out. What we are trying to tell you here, it is okay. I understand they're going to hurt if you're going to spend $500 to start a business or to invest in something, and then your $500 go down the drain. But what we need to learn is that we need to sometimes take a step back, and rather than reacting or responding to something, let's think about it and then say, okay, this didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Why am I afraid to take this step. Why am I this and why am I that? When you sometimes look at the why, which is S's display picture, which are like why, is we realize that it is more than just doing it. It might be a reason in terms of, okay, then my last $500, and if I put this in, I know that I can't feed my family. Or if I put this in, people can laugh at me. Or that when you start looking at the reason why you are afraid, you realize that sometimes that is not a valid reason, but you realize that it's not as much something to fear as we might think initially. I want to take this time to share with you a short video on how we deal with fear.
Blink, blink, blink. My cursor pulsed on the blank page. I wrote a sentence and then deleted every word. I stood up 6 times for coffee in 2 hours. Surprisingly, my page would still be blank when I returned. I wanted to start a blog. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to change the world. But all those things invite ridicule. I had a fear of being ridiculed. So I sat safely in the corner, dumping ideas into my hard drive, where they collected dust. One day, a friend of mine told me something which changed my perspective forever. He said this: "Nobody cares what you are doing." Far from being depressing, this was the most liberating thing I ever discovered. Obscurity is not a problem. It's an opportunity. It allows you to lay the first brick in your idea without a judging panel. Then you might find the confidence to lay another, and then another. Safe in your shroud of being a nobody, you have full reign to take whatever type of material you like and build whatever type of legacy you want. Eventually, you will fail in front of somebody. It might hurt a little. It might hurt a lot. When the raw emotions fade, though, you'll look around and realize something. You are still alive. Yesterday, I got a letter from a publisher which began, "Dear author, it hurt a lot, but I am still alive. Oh, and as a reminder, thought does not conquer fear. Plans do not conquer fear. Ideas do not conquer fear. Encouragement does not conquer fear. Friends do not conquer fear. Action conquers fear. As a matter of fact, it may be the only thing that does."
A very interesting video when I found this. So I like the part where it says, you may fail, people may laugh at you, but what do you do in terms of continue to push your idea, especially if you're going into entrepreneurship. It will not always work out, but at least you tried. Try to look at the lessons that you would have learned along the way. It's hard to see it sometimes when you're going through something in the moment, the emotional state, but take the time after to reflect and say, okay, I invested the $500. It didn't work out, but was it a case that I did not research what I was doing properly? Or did I not have enough information? Maybe you need to do this more, market. Find out what you need to do to make your next venture more successful. Then you might decide, instead of investing 500, I might only do 250. And then, or you might start smaller. You have to see, what can I do differently to achieve the outcome that I want? It comes with a lot of planning. Sometimes we go into something and we say, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But we didn't take the time to say, okay, I want to achieve here, but we want to jump from here to up here, whereas we need to build up and up. So All of these are things that makes us afraid of failure. I do not believe that failure or being told no is wrong, but I need to figure out why I am being told no or why I'm afraid. Once you find the why, we could work on moving forward. Anything, Dr. Brathwaite?
I think that what you tell yourself is in fact the key to overcoming failure, overcoming the fear. I have known many people who were not public speakers, people who having the responsibility to give a speech, and they're actually traumatized. They are in pain. They cannot sleep the night before. They have a nervous stomach, or they have to go to the bathroom. And that fear is a real fear that occurs to almost everybody. Everybody has some fear of public speaking, but you overcome that fear by the messages that you send to yourself. And I remember a friend of mine saying, the way to do it is to tell yourself, there will be no one in that room that knows more about this subject than I do. In other words, you go to the podium with a sense of self-confidence that you are in fact knowledgeable, that you are in fact informed. Of course, you have to do your homework to get to that stage, but nevertheless, you overcome the fear by taking action. And I think I agree with the comments made in the last video that action conquers fear. You have to take action. You have to do something, not just think about it, but do something that will allow you to overcome the fear of failure.
Any questions at this time?
What I'm gathering though is that fear begins and ends with us.
Yes. Most definitely, definitely. But it is influenced by external factors in terms of a child never having any fear until they fall off the bed and realize, oh, and then after that you realize to get them off the bed, they're a little more afraid to do certain things. Or after they had a bad experience, they see something on the ground, they will take up things and they realize one day they touch a centipede and it stings them. Then they realize, oh, this is something bad. So it is influenced or it is triggered by external factors, but it's how do you do it? I'm afraid of roaches. If I see a roach, I know, okay, I have to make a decision. Am I going to run out the house and let the roach stay in, or am I going to be brave enough to take 10 pairs of shoes and kill this one roach? That is me trying to not really conquer, but deal with the fear that I'm experiencing to make it a little bit more better for me, because it is better the roach dead than me in there screaming out like a crazy person.
Supports the thesis, overcoming fear takes action.
Yes.
You must do something and do something that helps you to overcome the fear. And it's just not thinking about the fear, but taking action in order to be positive about your path, about your goal, where you're going, where you would like to be. Right now in Barbados, there is a lot of talk about entrepreneurship, and people are being encouraged to be entrepreneurs. It is here that you have to overcome the fear of failure, because to a large extent, you are going to be going into something that is new. Entrepreneurship includes exploring the unknown, going into something probably that no one has done before, or even if they have done it, you're going to be doing it differently. So you've got to have the self-confidence to start with, that this is something that you can do. It's something you can succeed at. And you take the decision, you take the action. If you try once and you don't succeed, you evaluate why did you not succeed in the first instance, and then use that information to take the next step. So you build. The failure, therefore, is not a failure, it's an experience. And you collect the knowledge from that experience to take the next step forward in order to create that desired situation that you're looking for. So failure by itself is not always bad. It can be a great experience for you, a learning experience on which you can build for the future.
Yes. Any questions at this time? We have persons on Facebook. We have persons who are actually on the Zoom. Feel free to ask any questions.
This isn't a question per se, but as an entrepreneur, I find that most of the time the fear of failure tends to come from a lack of understanding, where you are presented with some situations such as taxes, laws, etc. You don't understand them, and sometimes the way how they're put out into the media, it can give you this sense of fear that, okay, something is going to happen to my business where I will be liable, that I'm totally unaware of, or I have no knowledge in this particular area. And there's generally sometimes nobody close that can guide you through it. So you tend to start to get that fearful feeling that, you know, something is going to happen. And then it actually slows you down, or it takes you to a place where, you know, it can actually discourage you from continuing at times.
Yes, I agree with you. It can be very discouraging when you do not know. This is where mentorship becomes very important, finding someone who can help you. I understand that several of the institutions that have been set up, in fact, incorporate an element of mentorship. In other words, it's not only starting the business, but having a helping hand along the way that can help you overcome these roadblocks, understand the legislation, understand the marketing plan, etc. Just recently, I was watching a program by the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, what is called Yes here in Barbados, and they were showing that in fact, once you come to them for assistance in establishing your business, they not only give you the money to get started, but they help you along the way. They help you to overcome those challenges which you have mentioned in terms of how to deal with taxes, how to prepare your accounting statements, how to monitor your returns, how to calculate cash flow, etc. There's a lot to learn when you're establishing a business. And I know Candice has done a lot of work in this area in helping people to establish a business. She has great experience in this. In fact, she's developed a manual on how to establish a business and how to overcome some of the pitfalls that you mentioned. I don't know if Candice would like to come in at this stage and make any comments of helping entrepreneurs to get started and to overcome these challenges that they face.
Sure. What I would love to share is that in general, in the Caribbean, the education system does not encourage students to go off the beaten path. So when I get students, at 18, 19 or so in university or even older, you have to spend the semester encouraging them to believe in themselves, showing them local case studies, and of course, connecting them with other graduates who become mentors. So it has been a very interesting experience to encourage entrepreneurs throughout the Caribbean, right? And in terms of Leon's question, I think knowledge is power. And if you are concerned about legal liability or financial mismanagement or shrinkage or so, this is a good opportunity not to be afraid, but to seek the knowledge that you require. whether it be at a university, at a program like YES, or by inquiring of a wiser older head as to what to realistically prepare for the future. So that is my contribution.
I just want to jump in here at this moment. But I have a few points. The first one is, well, there's Youth Business Trust Trinidad and Tobago, because I'm a part of them. For those of you who are watching in from Trinidad, which I know we have a few persons here. Then two, as a fellow entrepreneur, one of the biggest hurdles, yes, is knowledge. But the other thing is we are often afraid because we think that we are the only one in the world with this brilliant idea. Sometimes we are not reinventing the wheel. We are adapting and adjusting business or idea and making it better to service the market in which we are in. For example, Christie's Care is not the only childcare business in Barbados or in the world, but I wanted to work with the special needs persons. So I created my business with the niche of special needs, and then I made it unique, a unique service to the persons that my clients. So we want to take our idea and we want to keep it hidden. When we are keeping it hidden because we don't want anybody to know and take our idea, we are also hindering ourselves, because then no one can help us because we are not sharing. If you want to get money from the bank, you have to go to the bank and say, I have this business idea and this is how I want to expand and this is what I need the money for. You do not give away your secrets, your trade secrets, but you have to share information to be able to get information to make your business better. And that is one of the biggest hurdles entrepreneurs face, because no one wants to say or explain their business. Two, is not always that they do not want to, but they don't know how to. When I tell persons that I was a very shy person and I could not speak in public, they are often very shocked. But I know that this is my weakness. What is your weakness? And how do you take your weakness and make it your strength? I joined Toastmasters. Toastmasters helped me to be able to take ideas and what I want and how to be able to speak in front of people, help motivate people, explain myself more clearly. That was my weakness and I worked on it. And now, according to my family, I don't stop speaking. That is what I needed to do for myself. So you need to figure out that is your weakness. Okay, we're going to start writing it down, because sometimes we have to have a good plan. My weakness is I need help with my business finances. I need help with business branding. I need help getting my name out there. That's your first idea. What am I going to do to get what I need? I'm going to have to start, even if you're just speaking to your family and say, okay, all right, mommy, I want to pitch my business idea to me, and get people who are going to be bluntly honest with you. Not your friends and, oh yeah, you do real good. Use my baby boy and my little girl. No, get people that are going to tell you, no, Chris, that's a real bad idea. I think you need to do more research with this. Sometimes that is what we need, a good team, a support system, so that when we have a plan, we have the support system to help us know, and the mentor or what's not, to feed us and tell us, okay, where we are going, where we need to do differently. You have to research and you plan your action. Yes, after doing all of that, we could lead back to the same point of this conversation, failure. But along the way, you have learned lessons for you personally, for your business, and a guide to what you now need to do, so that if it does not work out, how do you take it and make it work out for you? Sorry for the long ranting, but it was some key points that we need to discuss, because sometimes we always hiding up things and we need to let things be out there. Any other questions?
That's a good intervention. And I think it's important to recognize that you do not eat the elephant in one day. Normally, it's a step-by-step process in which sometimes you have to start small. You start small, you're producing a product, you begin to sell it to friends, introduce it to friends, get feedback, and then on the basis of that feedback, you improve the product and go forward. There are people who sit down quietly and they see large companies like Facebook and McDonald's and Kentucky, and they said, I want to sit down and I want to make a Kentucky. Well, you don't start off a Kentucky by starting a Kentucky. You start small. The people who started Burger King started by making one burger at a time. And we have to recognize that it's a step-by-step process to achievement. Candice, do you agree with me?
Oh yes, it's step by step, and also you need a good plan in terms of what you are going to do. You need to lay it out on paper, not just have it nebulously in your mind. And that is a challenge I find in the Caribbean, where we do a lot of talk. We talk about a lot of things where we don't necessarily document them, and we don't always celebrate our successes. So that is what I would recommend.
One thing that I do personally for myself is have goals. Goals for me personally, goals for the business, and that helps guide me in terms of what I am doing. So if I realize at the beginning of the year, I'm just using Leon's example, that I realize my business accounting needs some support, I am going to make that a goal for the year. And I already know that that's my weakness. So when you sit down, you take out your smartphone or whatever, or you look through your networks and you realize I have somebody on my team who is a good accountant or someone who's good with numbers. And then you ask that person a question, or then that person may advise you to somebody else. I'm a part of a lot of organizations, and sometimes we as businesses, we feel we are so busy, as a businesswoman, I have no time for these things. But then you realize that you need to network. Network is a really important thing. You don't have to always network with your people in your area. For example, I'm a part of the Barbados Youth Business Trust. I'm a part of Trinidad's Youth Business Trust. I am a part of a lot of entrepreneurship organizations and incubators, not because I think that my business necessarily is not doing well, but I think that they provide a lot of information and stuff that I may need. And there's something that I can get from the YES program in Barbados, but then there's also something that I can get from the Business Trust in Trinidad. Each of them will present their own skills and information that will help me in my business. Sometimes we need to network. Yes, you might be busy, but you need to make time. When we ladies want to go to a outing, and we have work and stuff, we make time to go out. We make time to get our nails and our hairs done. The guys, you make time to go to the barber when you realize that the beard getting too long. Make time for the things that are important to you. We do not make time for these things, and then we try to do them, and then we fail, and then we are all doom and gloom. You have to make time, invest time, research, plan, and you realize the same words keep coming up. These are things that we need to do to not saying that once you do them, you're not going to fail, but it will make the likelihood of failing smaller. Network, make time, plan, find some people to talk and advise you, and take time to reflect. What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What are my area? I may be good at speaking. I have a friend who's not. Guess what? But the friend is good at doing something else. We work together. I can be the voice that she can't be, or I would teach her to become more confident in her speaking. Work together with somebody. You're not an island. We were not designed to be alone. So let's work with people and build unity.
Agreed.
Okay, bye. Thank you for coming. Any other questions?
I have a question, Christine. Do you get a sense that a lot of entrepreneurs are using LinkedIn to network online? Or do you think persons are still hoping to go to a business event with a business card and make contacts? What is your sense with those that you are interacting with? What do you think is really happening?
Where to start? Okay. I think everybody trying to embrace technology, especially in a COVID environment. So I can talk before COVID. We have Facebook, we create Twitter, we have all these different accounts. However, I didn't believe that we were using them effectively. So we have a LinkedIn account, connect with this buddy, connect with that buddy. And we just have this whole set of connections, but they're just there on LinkedIn. Are you actually connecting with people? I don't think that we were. Now with COVID, because COVID forced us to now have to do things differently, we were forced to go outside of our comfort zone. So I had to switch to online teaching. I never thought of doing online teaching. It was like already hard to teach in person for us to be doing it online. And then when I started to do it online, I was like, you know what? Why am I only doing business in Barbados? Then I start making connections, whether it was LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And then look, for example, this is the second webinar that we're having, and we have persons here from Trinidad, Barbados, even the US. Because now we don't need to keep our business or our ideas or our knowledge within a confined space. We are now able to expand. But in order for us to do so, we need to figure out how do we use the technology or so that we have at our disposal to our advantage. When you tell persons, my business have TikTok. Oh, why you wouldn't need a TikTok for dealing with special needs children? Guess what? These children know technology so well that they teach me things teach me things every day. Now they are the ones making the TikTok. So now we are saying the youth on the computers and always playing this and always on Instagram. But how are we using these same things that they're really good at to show them that it also can be positive? It can also teach us things. So I use it to teach persons about recycling craft that we make at school or that we can do at home. So it's how to use it effectively. So LinkedIn, I don't think that is being used to its full potential.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, I do have one last video that I would like to share with us before we start to wrap up. I will share this video. Yeah.
When Pablo Picasso was an old man, he was sitting in a cafe, scribbling on a napkin. He didn't know it, but a woman sitting near him was looking on in awe. A couple of minutes later, Picasso finished his coffee, crumpled up the napkin, and was about to throw it away. But the woman stopped him and said, "Can I have that napkin? I'll pay you for it." "Sure," said Picasso. "That will be $20,000. The woman was stunned. "What? It only took you 2 minutes to draw that?" "No, ma'am," Picasso replied. "It took me over 60 years to draw this." Picasso lived to be 91. When he passed away in 1973, he had amassed a net worth of around $500 million, and his art had become famous all over the world. His output was exceptionally prolific. The total number of artworks he produced has been estimated at 50,000, comprising a large number of paintings, drawings, sculptures, ceramics, prints, tapestries, and rugs. By honing his craft for decades, Picasso eventually reached a point where he could charge $20,000 for a 2-minute napkin scribble, or, at least, deliver a pretty damn cool one-liner about it. Anyway, the takeaway here is that mastery takes time. Therefore, we need to be consistent in our practice. And to do that, we need to be able to make mistakes without losing momentum or giving up. To become really good at what you do, you have to be comfortable failing at it. To become remarkable, you have to be willing to fail more than anyone else around you. When you were a kid, you didn't think twice about learning to walk. It didn't matter what the results happened to be in one single attempt. You just kept on trying, no matter what. You stood up, took a step, fell, hurt yourself, maybe cried for a minute or two, and then tried again. Giving up never crossed your mind. At no point did you stop and think, "Man, I suck at this." I guess walking isn't for me. Clearly, avoiding failure is something we learn later in life. Somewhere along the way, most of us become afraid to fail. We learn that it's embarrassing to fail and that others might hold it against us or make fun of us for it. And when that happens, we tend to stick to what we're already good at. The problem with this, of course, is that it severely limits us. As soon as we buy into the idea that failing is something to be avoided, every unsuccessful attempt sends the signal that we should stop trying. And while that reasoning keeps us feeling safe, it also robs us of the opportunity to realise our highest potential. Because the only way to become great at something is to be willing to fail at it, over and over again. Success demands failure. So, we need to take action despite our fear of failure. How do we do that? In Stoic philosophy, there is a concept known as the sphere of choice. This idea makes a distinction between internals, the things we can control, for example, our character, values, and behaviour; externals, the things we cannot control, for example, the past, much of the natural world, and the thoughts and behaviour of other people. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus believed that we should focus exclusively on the internals and let go of the externals. Only when we stop worrying about what is outside our control and instead turn our attention to what is within our control can we have peace of mind. I found the sphere of choice to be very effective for dealing with my fears of failure. Pretty much every time I sit down and write, a series of fearful, and quite mean, thoughts run through my head. Usually, they go something like this. Who do you think you are? Nobody is going to want to read this. Man, your writing is dull. You don't have anything to say, do you? Let's throw this article in the trash and go do something else. In the past, these thoughts would often get the best of me, but I have since learned that I am not my thoughts. I am the one who hears them. And since that's the case, my thoughts belong in the category of external things. I can't control what thoughts happen to pop into my head at any given moment, and therefore I don't worry about it. My writing, on the other hand, belongs in the category of internal things. It's completely within my control. I can always decide to keep on typing. So that's what I do. No matter what my brain is yelling at me, I just keep on typing away until I've met my writing goal for the day. This is another part of writing that used to be a big problem for me. If you've ever created something and put it out for the world to see, I'm sure you can relate. Getting good feedback feels quite nice, but getting bad feedback feels downright awful. If you get 100 positive responses, followed by 1 negative, it's that last one that's going to stick in your mind. So, to get really great at what you do, you simply cannot care what other people think about it. Remember, the thoughts and behaviour of others belong in the external category, and therefore you need to treat them with a healthy dose of indifference. You'll never get the approval of everyone, so don't waste your time trying. From now on, whenever you're experiencing a fear of failure, remember the sphere of choice. If you find that your concern is about something external, practice letting it go. Remember that it's a waste of time to worry about things you cannot control. If the object of your concern is internal, use it as a trigger to take action. Stop thinking and start doing. Be like a kid who's learning to walk. Fail without concern about how it looks or what other people think. Then do it again and again and again. Measure your success not by your ability to avoid mistakes, but by your ability to show up and do the work no matter what. Picasso was willing to create 50,000 artworks to build his legacy. What are you willing to do?
I felt like this video summed up everything that we would have been discussing this morning. Taking action and keep going, keep trying. Don't give up. Any questions?
Never look, Christine.
Yes.
Never look for the approval of everybody,
Yes.
because you will never get it. There are always people who will not be in agreement with your idea.
Any questions or any comments? Chelston, any closing remarks?
My closing remarks will be to emphasize that the key to overcoming the fear of failure is to take action. Action conquers fear. And when we look at the lives of those who have had a difficult life and some who have been very successful, we know that they have taken action, and action conquers fear. So don't just sit and think about it. Decide to do something about the things that interest you, the things that you would like to succeed in, the things that you would like to make a productive living from. You have to take action. And once you take action, the possibility is that you will succeed.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. I just want to thank everyone for coming and being a part of our How to Deal with the Fear of Failure webinar. Feel free to suggest any other topics that you would like us at Chrissy's Care to discuss with you. You can send me a WhatsApp at 1246-267-2255. You can email chrissyscare@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, Facebook. Just communicate with us and we will try to reach out and provide the topics in which you may have an interest. Thank you very much for being a part today.
And thank you very much, Christine.